I am again thankful to all news media outlets for letting me use their contents. I greatly appreciate that. I am available 24/7 if they need any assistance. Now go to the headlines. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, the first test of this Trump era. Election night again. From Wisconsin to Florida, the high-stakes matchups with millions of dollars pouring in. What it could reveal about voters' thoughts on the president's performance amid Elon Musk's deep Doge cuts. The mass layoffs hitting healthcare workers at CDC, NIH, and more as Doge cuts 20,000 jobs. And Mr. Booker takes on Washington. The Democrat whose marathon Senate speech opposing the White House is smashing records. Rising uncertainty on the eve of a massive new wave of Trump tariffs. Why people are rushing to buy everything from couches to cars before prices could go up. Breaking news as a truck crashes into a Boston sidewalk, injuring at least 4. What happened? The new risk for severe weather, the threat rising tomorrow for 70 million. We're tracking it. Inside the deportations to a notorious El Salvador prison. The Trump administration admitting one father was mistakenly sent there. And our exclusive interviews with 2 women who say they were wrongly taken there as well. The stunning details of an anesthesiologist accused of attempting to kill his wife at an iconic Hawaiian lookout. What she says he tried to do. And chairman of the board, one man's lifetime collection of misquotes, malaprops, and strange things his co-workers said.
With this AI tool, you can create a viral AI dancing influencer ready to take over the internet. Meet talking.
The world waits this Tuesday night for the U.S. president's tariff plan.
Whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were.
As some U.S. senators push back.
Canada's our friend, not our adversary.
On the campaign trail, 2 parties lose 3 candidates. Why they're no longer in the running. The consumer carbon tax evaporates. The effect on your wallet, the environment, and farmers.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The day before the American president's expected announcement of sweeping tariffs on goods imported to the U.S., countries around the world are trying to anticipate what's coming. The White House press secretary said today Donald Trump's team is still perfecting the final details. Trump claims his plan will be the start of a rebirth of America. What it will almost certainly trigger is an escalating trade war. Some American senators in border states with Canada are standing up for Canada today, but uncertainty prevails. Jackson Prosco begins our coverage tonight.
On the eve of Donald Trump's so-called Liberation Day, the White House still can't offer any details about the tariffs the president is preparing to impose, only that they will be effective immediately.
April 2nd, 2025 will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history.
Trump has repeatedly vowed blanket reciprocal tariffs on countries around the world.
Whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were.
That's on top of the automotive tariffs set to come into effect this week. Canada, China, Mexico, and the EU will likely bear the brunt of it.
We do not necessarily want to retaliate, but if it is necessary, we have a strong plan to retaliate, and we will use it.
In Washington, there is a sense Trump's plans are still very much in flux, keeping markets shaky as pushback grows within the halls of Congress.
What we need is an Article 1 branch that is willing to stand up and say Canada is our friend, not our adversary. Trade with Canada is important.
Ahead of blanket tariffs, Virginia Democrats.
Joining us now, Texas Congressman Brandon Gill. Congressman, I just saw that you were going to be the next Jim Jordan. I mean, you're 28. I got to get to that because
31.
31. Oh, you're always 28 to me. So, what is going on? The Democrats on this voter ID issue reveal themselves to everyday Americans who overwhelmingly want this legislation passed.
It really does. And remember, this is coming from the same Democrat Party that ran an entire election trying to convince the American people that men can get pregnant and that defunding the police makes us safer. And now they're on to the next absurd idea. It's a party that is completely rudderless. They have no message. They have no leadership. And now they're trying to convince the American people that it's good for them to flood their communities with illegal alien terrorists who are now on their way to voting. That's their message.
Now, I was disturbed by something that happened today in the House. Now, you're a first-term congressman, so this was a lot of fun for you, I'm sure. But your colleague, Anna Paulina Luna, she's oftentimes a guest on this show, she launched something called a discharge petition. Not to get too wonky here, but it forces a vote on what is called proxy voting. So enough Republicans voted for proxy voting for, I guess, pregnant women and women with small children. And this is the end result, according to the Speaker.
That rule being brought down means that we can't have any further action on the floor this week. That means we will not be voting on the SAVE Act for election integrity. We will not be voting on the rogue judges who are attacking President Trump's agenda. We will not be taking down these terrible Biden policies with the CRA votes. All that was just wiped off the table. It's very unfortunate.
Is that really the case, that nothing can be done after what happened today? Is that actually the case?
You know, I think the problem here, and I'm very skeptical of the constitutionality of proxy voting. I don't think that discharge petition
Meaning
was
you can
a good
vote from
idea.
home for people watching today. You can vote from home if you have,
Correct.
and everyone
You can.
feels like obviously we support moms, support motherhood so much.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air here. Authorities warning of life-threatening storms moving in right now. Also breaking tonight, the chilling images just in. A suspect has opened fire at a pharmacy, killing one. Authorities say he had a grudge against pharmacies. First tonight, these severe storms moving in from Dallas right up to Detroit, and all of this then moving east. Possible tornadoes, damaging winds, and blinding rain. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast. Just in that harrowing scene, authorities say a gunman opening fire. The deadly pharmacy shooting. They say he was angry with pharmacies. And it all comes tonight as the suspect in the murder of the United Healthcare CEO is also in the news. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi now seeking the death penalty against Luigi Mangione. Also tonight, multiple pedestrians hit on the streets of Boston. An out-of-control truck jumping the curb, hitting pedestrians, smashing into a restaurant. Tonight, President Trump set to escalate his trade war, imposing massive tariffs on America's trading partners around the world. Economists say this will likely hike prices here in the U.S. Tonight, the massive new firings as well, this time federal workers at the FDA and the CDC, among other health agencies. We're watching the high-stakes elections tonight in 2 states, the first major test for President Trump, and Elon Musk spending millions on the race in Wisconsin. What the voters are saying about Musk getting so involved. The Yankee star and the death of his 14-year-old son. There is news tonight. Possible cause now. The Trump administration acknowledging they wrongly deported the immigrant to that notorious prison in El Salvador, calling it, quote, an administrative error. Overseas tonight, the remarkable rescue, a 65-year-old woman pulled from the rubble 91 hours after that 7.7 earthquake. The images coming in tonight, the cruise ship rocked by rough seas, waves up to 40 feet. The former Full House star and what he's revealed about his personal battle. And Bruce Springsteen paying tribute tonight to the man who inspired one of Springsteen's biggest hits. And you'll remember the moment.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News. Today, the Albanese government prepares to take the US to the World Trade Organization if Australian goods are caught up in Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. While on the campaign trail, Labor seeks a pay increase for minimum wage workers, and the coalition pledges to cut 41,000 public sector jobs if elected. Also, ABC Vote Compass returns for the 2025 election campaign. Will explain how to compare your views to party and candidate policies. Also ahead, massive livestock losses and homes inundated. With more rain on the way for flooded Queensland, communities in northern New South Wales prepare for flash flooding. And storm surges combined with king tides to batter Sydney beaches, causing damage right along the coastline. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Dan Borsha. The Albany.
This is Asia Now.
Good afternoon to you. It is noon in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 a.m. in New Delhi, 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Yasmin Yonkers. At this hour, China's military launches a second day of drills around Taiwan, this time under a code name, Straight Thunder. The operation comes a day after the U.S. called for peace in the region. The world awaits a potential trade war as U.S. President Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are set to kick in. The White House confirms the levies will take effect immediately, calling them a historic move. And aid groups warn of a shortage in water and medicine in Myanmar, where the risk of disease spreading is high in the aftermath of a powerful earthquake. Officials expect the death toll to exceed 3,000 as hopes of finding survivors fade.
Let me be clear, the needs are massive and they're rising by the hour. The window for life-saving response is closing.
Welcome back to The World Today here on France 24. I'm Stuart Norval. The headlines today. The US President Donald Trump is poised to unveil sweeping new Liberation Day tariffs. He continues, though, to keep the world guessing until the last minute about the scope of an onslaught that could spark a global trade war. We'll hear from our correspondent in Washington in just a moment. And hope for the far right here in France as a French appeals court says it could examine their leader Marine Le Pen's case within a time frame that could potentially allow the far right leader to contest the 2027 presidential election if her conviction is overturned. Also coming up for you, you think of the night. What do you think of? Do you think of being snuggled up in your warm bed or eating a meal under starlit skies? Or do you think of your troubles or your monsters under the bed? My guest is an author of a new book, Overnight Journeys, Conversations and Stories After Dark. That's in a few minutes. So welcome to Liberation Day is the message from the White House as US President Donald Trump is set to announce a barrage of what he describes as reciprocal tariffs, which will follow friend and foe alike. After weeks of White House hype and public anxiety, Liberation Day is a bit to boost US manufacturing and punish other countries for what he sees as years of unfair trade practices. But many economists are warning that the move threatens to plunge the world's economy, including the US's, into a downturn as well as mangling decades-old alliances. Well, let's hear some of the reaction. First of all, this from the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. Breaking news from the Middle East as Israel says it is expanding its military operation in Gaza.
Hollywood film star Val Kilmer, best known for his roles in Top Gun and Batman Forever, dies aged 65.
And here, number 10 is working furiously to cut a deal with the US ahead of President Trump's new trade tariffs.
It's Wednesday, the 2nd of April. Your headlines. Israel says it's expanding its operation in Gaza to seize large parts of the Strip. Hollywood star Val Kilmer, who appeared in Top Gun and Batman Forever, has died aged 65. President Trump outlines plans for trade tariffs today, with every single country expected to be paying steep taxes to send goods to the United States.
110, engaging with P2.
Sky News joins the crew of HMS Dauntless on a live fire exercise ahead of its transit past Yemen later this year. very good morning. We begin with the breaking news that Israel's military operation in Gaza is enlarging. Let's go straight to our Middle East correspondent, Alistair Bunkle, who joins us now. Ali, good morning to you. Was this essentially expected, or is this announcement from the Defence Minister a big surprise?
Well, I mean, the IDF Operation Gaza has been expanding every day since Israel broke the ceasefire a number of weeks ago. I mean, pretty much every day they have issued new evacuation orders for parts of Gaza as they have started to push their forces deeper into Gaza itself and essentially sort of retaking land that they had captured during the fighting of the last year and a half, but then withdrawn from under the ceasefire agreement. The ceasefire agreement that, as I say, collapsed when Israel resumed its airstrikes on Gaza a couple of weeks ago. The announcement from Israel Katz, who is Israel's defense minister, this morning does take it slightly further for a number of reasons. Firstly, they are sending in, or have actually already just sent in, a new division of the IDF. So they are bolstering the number of Israeli forces on the ground in Gaza, and they are looking to push into Rafah, the city in the south of Gaza, and we're now seeing thousands of Palestinians fleeing from there. Palestinians that have returned there, but are now having to go back.
Hello there, very good morning to you. The Prime Minister is making an 11th hour bid for a trade deal with America.
Yes, Sir Keir Starmer is preparing a package of economic concessions in an attempt to spare the UK from President Trump's tariffs.
But the White House is standing firm with what's called Liberation Day.
It's simple. If you make your product in America, you will pay no tariffs.
But with 25,000 jobs in the motoring industry at risk, can anything be done to save the UK?
Find out at 9 o'clock tonight when Donald Trump speaks in the Rose Garden at the White House. It's being dubbed Make America Wealthy Again. But is it going to make us poorer?
Northern Ireland's manufacturing industry holds their breath, for they already face checks coming in from the UK. Additional tariffs will mean that they will face checks going back in to the UK.
Workshy Britain, Labour's welfare reforms mean that 400,000 more people will be deemed unfit for work by the end of the decade.
A rejected peace plan for Ukraine. Russia says it will not accept Donald Trump's proposals whilst President Zelensky is still in power.
Sad news this morning that the actor Val Kilmer, famous for roles in Top Gun, Batman, Tombstone, and his portrayal of the musician Jim Morrison, has died at the age of 65.
The UK's electronic travel scheme begins for Europeans today, who will now have to pay £10 to enter the country. We're asking this morning, will it deter tourists?
A new biopic on the Beatles. The cast is confirmed as stars assemble for the first time ahead of director Sam Mendes' 4-film project.
Sport this morning, Bukayo Saka returned for Arsenal after being out for over 100 days. And he scored, as well as they beat Fulham, but they do have another injury worry ahead of this Real Madrid game. Manchester United reject came back to haunt his old team last night. And the athlete who won't compete for Great Britain, as he has to pay to do so.
It's another sunny start for most of us, but how long will the sunshine last? I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Wednesday morning. However you're watching, wherever you're tuned in, I'm Eamon Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Africa News. The news.
The leader of Burkina Faso's religious
junta has granted amnesty to 21 soldiers convicted for their roles in a failed coup attempt in 2015 according to an official decree. Since September 2022, Burkina Faso has been under military rule following a coup led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré. In December 2023, Traoré announced a general amnesty for several individuals convicted of attempting to overthrow the transitional government that was established after former President Blaise Compaoré's ouster. The decree allows the pardoned soldiers to rejoin the Burkinabe military, which has been engaged in a prolonged battle against extremist group linked to Al-Qaeda and Daesh for over a decade. However, they will not be entitled to compensation or career advancement. The 21 soldiers have been convicted in 2019 by a military tribunal in Ouagadougou for charges including harming state security, murder, and treason. However, two high-ranking generals, former Chief of Staff Gilbert Diendere and ex-Foreign Minister Djibril Bassolé, who were considered the masterminds behind the coup attempt, remain excluded from the amnesty.
A Congolese warlord has announced a new rebel movement that could further destabilize Eastern DRC. Thomas Lubanga, a war criminal convicted by the International Criminal Court, has announced the formation of the Convention for the Popular Revolution movement in eastern Congo's Ituri province. The announcement comes as Congolese armed forces have been struggling for months to fight off a rapid advance from the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel movement into North and South Kivu. Lubanga was convicted to 14 years in prison for recruiting child soldiers in 2012, but got released in 2020. He is currently based in neighboring Uganda. According to Reuters news agency, Lubanga said that the CPR was both a political and an armed movement, and that bringing peace to Ituri province required an immediate change of government. He, however, claimed that the group has for now not launched any military operations. It is furthermore unclear how many combatants Lubanga might control.
Zimbabwe's police say Tuesday it had arrested 95 people after a day of protests called by opponents of President Emerson Mnangagwa. The group appeared before a court in Harare on charges of promoting public violence. Turnout for the demonstrations was low, with most people staying away from the streets. Only a small number of businesses opened and public transport mostly shut down. A copy of the police charges accused the suspects of throwing stones and barricading a street while they gathered at Harare's Freedom Square. Monday's demonstrations were called by a section of the ruling ZANU-PF party, which accuses Mnangagwa of seeking to extend his rule beyond 2028. Last week, Mnangagwa fired his army chief in what observers said was the most conspicuous sign yet that the 82-year-old intended to cling to power.
French President Emmanuel Macron and his Algerian counterpart President Abdelmajid Tebboune spoke on the phone on Monday and agreed to improve their country's relationship. After months of tension, they hope to restart cooperation on security and migration, as mentioned in a joint statement. Macron showed trust in Tebboun's decision and called for compassion towards Boualem Sansal, a Franco-Algerian writer sentenced for 5 years in prison by Algeria. Their ties worsened after Macron supported a Moroccan sovereignty plan for Western Sahara, which upset Algeria. The relationship was also strained by the repatriation of Algerians facing expulsions from France. The situation escalated after February attack in Mulhouse, linked to an Algerian national who was denied repatriation. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot is set to visit Algiers on 6th of April to swiftly elevate the bilateral relationship to the level of ambition desired by both heads of state, as stated in a press release.
Arsenal winger Bukayo Saka is set to make his return from a lengthy injury layoff when the Gunners host Fulham in the Premier League on Tuesday. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta said Monday that Saka was fit again and could even start the game.
Well, the careful thing is already done. So now it's about putting him in the grass in the right moments. But he's pushing because he really wants it. We have respected the time frame. We have done everything. And we have to hold him back even. So he's ready to go. Yeah, it's another massive weapon that we have with him. We know the impact that he's had in the team and how important his role and his contribution is to our success. So great to have him back, obviously.
Saka tore his hamstring in December. His return comes as Arteta's team is preparing to face Real Madrid in the Champions League quarter-finals with the first leg in London next week.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.